Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to the Wild Digest. I am your host, Scott. It's wonderful to see you again. I just wanted to do a very quick TBR for the month of December because everyone else is jumping on it. And I think last month, or for November, I had my TBR posted at the end of October, like a good boy. But this month, we're a couple days into the month, and I have not posted anything whatsoever in regards to what I'm planning on reading. So I thought I would quickly throw something out there. And I wanted to do this mainly to see if anybody might be inspired by the stuff I'm planning on reading. And maybe you'll read them, and then we can engage in a conversation. And that's what this is all about. Anyway, so first and foremost, I do want to catch you up on a couple of things. I finally finished reading Mystery Ranch by Max Brand, a.k.a. Frederick Faust. I have commented on this book a couple times already, so you'll have to go back and watch those videos. I think at the very first video, I introduced it as part of my November TBR. I then did a follow-up video where I mentioned I was about halfway through or a little further into the book. And in that video, I commented a little bit about some of the racially insensitive stuff that is in this particular volume. It goes without saying that you're going to find that in here. And it's unfortunate because there is a pretty cool story in this book. But alas, Max Brand, a.k.a. Frederick Faust, did write a lot of this kind of stuff in his books. And I've seen people posting about it online. So if you go into reading any of his books, you'll have to be aware that you are probably going to run into at least a comment or two being tossed out by characters in regards to other individuals. Now, in this book, you go from bad to worse. And I'm going to be a little spoilery here because there's no other way I can do this pseudo review without at least mentioning some stuff that is, insensitive, but also just kind of completely out there. We'll start off right from the bat, right out of the gate. Early in this book, there are some characters who do refer to black people using the N-word. That happens. It's not great. And that's a little warning sign to you if you're reading this book that things are you're entering some pretty unsophisticated territory, let's say that. There is later, not too much later, a few chapters in, there's the introduction of a character who is a Chinese woman who is brought in as the chef for a major character. And this woman is described in some pretty racially twisted terms and is even given the affectionate, quote unquote, name of Hong Kong because she never reveals her name. She is presented as very much a stereotype, but our lead character is a bit fascinated by her and smitten by her. And later on, towards the end of the novel, the relationship becomes a little bit more solidified. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the plot because you need to know where it begins and where it goes, and also a little bit of commentary along the way. So this book starts out with our lead character, John Templar, kind of a cool name. I don't know if he's any relation to Simon, maybe, who knows. John Templar rides into this town and gets completely blackout drunk and proceeds to trash like 3 saloons in this town. He wakes up not remembering what he's done. He's imprisoned. He's offered a bodyguard position by this rich guy named Condon. Now, Condon says, listen, here's my situation. I feel like somebody is threatening my life. I feel like I'm going to be in great danger. But I'm sure all this is going to wrap up within a month. So if at the end of 30 days, I'm safe, you're safe, we'll call it quits. You can go on your way, and we'll probably have everything resolved before that happens. And Templar says, okay, I'll stick around and do this. And it goes all sorts of weird directions where Templar and Condon have this weird falling out. Templar does kill someone who looks to be coming in to kill Condon, and then Condon winds up dead. And it's a death, and this is where it's going to get a little spoilery here. It's a death that in many ways mirrors what happens in the opening of season 4 of Slow Horses. So if you're a Slow Horses fan, there is a particular scene, an event that happens, and through a bit of misdirection, we're led to believe that a certain individual has been killed, but that is later revealed to not be entirely true. Well, this book more or less does the exact same thing. You have Condon found dead in his room, and of course his face is smashed beyond all recognition. It's a little obvious at that point as to what's eventually going to happen. Yes, spoiler alert, surprise, surprise, they find that Condon is still alive. This is a long adventure, though. This takes a while for them to finally meet up in this mill, in this mountain, and have a bit of a showdown, and Condon goes, he meets his end in a weird way. Back to this Chinese woman, Hong Kong, as Templar names her or nicknames her. This is just gross. I don't know. This is gross. Maybe back then it was totally acceptable. It's certainly not something you would do if you adapted this book into for a modern audience by any stretch. Hong Kong, in the end of the book, eventually is revealed to be a white woman who, with makeup, costuming, and a stupid accent, has been pretending that she's Chinese the entire time. And at which point, John Templar, our lead, falls head over heels for her, and they live happily ever after. Yeah. So the story itself was good. I enjoyed that part of it. It was sort of an interesting mystery ranch. It's not a straight ahead Western by any stretch. It really is a mystery story. And it's well done. Max Brand is a competent writer. I have read other Max Brand books and I've enjoyed them. He is a good writer. But that some of the stuff that was in this book, in particularly in regards to Hong Kong, is kind of unforgivable. Even when you realize that this was written back in 28, 29. It was published in 30, so who knows when he was writing it. So I don't know if I necessarily would recommend it. It's certainly not my favorite of the Max Brand books that I've read so far, but I have other Max Brand books that I am very much looking forward to reading. I have, I'll just show you some of the other ones that I have. I have Tenderfoot here. A lot of these are pretty old editions. A couple of them are pretty old editions. Old copy of Tenderfoot, pocket. Hunted Riders, again, a pocket book. Flaming Irons, another pocket, and then some later printings, probably from the 80s. I have Storm on the Range, a Warner paperback, and then this one is a much later pocket book, and this is Rip and Ride's Double. So inexplicably, my camera is not focusing on any of those. So I have some other Brand books. I will get to them eventually, but I also have several other Westerns that I'm looking forward to reading. I've read books by Al Cody, and I really enjoyed those immensely, so I'm looking forward to reading some more Al Cody. But I do have some other Max Brands, and as I said, I don't think Mystery Ranch is a particularly strong one compared to the other ones that I have read. Another issue I do have with some of the older Westerns, and I haven't really commented on this before, it seems like in those early days, and maybe it extended all the way up through the 50s at the very least, a lot of the publishers seem to insist that there be a romantic element in these novels. And oftentimes it really does feel completely tacked on. Like this one, Mystery Ranch, you could get away with reading this without any involvement of Hong Kong with that particular character. Or if you're going to have that character, there's no reason for John Templar to be obsessed with her and eventually marry her. I think he marries her in the end. And the same goes for, one of the other Max Brand books, I just happen to have it here, was this one here, which I really enjoyed, Longhorn Feud. This one kind of ends with a really strange thing where just sort of out of the blue, our lead character sort of falls in love with someone. So I don't know. Maybe it was one of those things where the publishers thought, we need to have at least some kind of a romantic element in our novels in order for them to sell. But at the same time, how many women were really reading Westerns back in the 30s, 40s, etc.? So I don't know. That's kind of a sexist, horrible thing to say. So I'll put those aside for now. So last month, my TBR was unfulfilled. I did read all three of the Undersea Trilogy books by Pohl and Williamson and enjoyed those immensely. I read Mystery Ranch, which I thought was okay. I'm not even going to give ratings on that one. I thought it was okay. I also read several of the essays in this volume, Science Fiction Today and Tomorrow. I've talked about this one before. And that was about it. I didn't really get to anything else. So what I'm going to do for this month is try to make a far more doable and realistic TBR so that I can actually end the month feeling like I've accomplished what I set out to do. And some of the books that I put on my TBR for November that I did not get to, like the first book of the Chase Sully series by Roberson, I'm going to hold off on that one as well. So that one kind of just went back into my sea of yellow spine daws. So eventually I'll get to it, but I've decided to read some other stuff for December. And I'm just going to go through some of those right now. First and foremost, you'll all be really excited to learn that I'm almost done with The Sword of Lancor. It's a very short little novel, and I just rolled into it after reading Mystery Ranch. I should have this done today. I'm not going to comment on it. It's not that it's bad, not that it's good. I'm not going to say anything because I think it will deserve a video down the line. So reading The Sword of Lancor with this goofy guy right there. If my camera would only behave itself, there we go. There's a nice little focused image. And by Howard L. Corey, a husband and wife team. And that'll be coming up. I'll talk about that one later. After I'm done with Sword of Lancor, another book that you've already seen on my channel is this one here, Christmas Out West. This is edited by Bill Pronzini and Martin Greenberg. It was published by Bantam, and it is a collection of wintry or holiday or Christmas-themed short stories set in the Old West. And I'm looking forward to reading everything that's in here. There are some poems. There are short stories of varying lengths. And I'm really, really looking forward to digging into it. And I'm also looking forward to reading one of them. I'm not sure which, but I will read one of them on my channel from start to finish. There are a few in there that are only about 10, 12, or 15 or 20 pages or so. So that is going to be read throughout the month of December. What I'm going to do is after I'm done with The Sword of Lancor, I'm going to probably read one or two stories from here and then roll into my next book and then go back and read some more stories, etc., etc. So after I read a couple stories from this, I'm going to start reading The Caves of Steel, one of the Robots books by Isaac Asimov. I've been wanting to read this for a while now, and I did get this copy from an eBay seller, and I am really excited to finally read these. As I may have mentioned before, I've been watching the Foundation series on Apple. I finished season 3 just a couple of weeks ago, and for the most part, absolutely loving it. And when I was growing up, I did read a couple robot books. I did read a couple Foundation books, but I really want to set out to get through all of them, and especially Asimov's timeline that he set up, which connects all of those universes together, the whole Galactic Empire thing. So I'm going to read Caves of Steel after I read a couple of short stories from Christmas Out West, and then I'll read more stories from Christmas Out West. And then I'm finally going to slip into The Blood Red Game, Michael Moorcock. I picked this one up at a convention back in October. It's not in great shape. I had never read it before, but this is an alternate name. I think the original title was The Sundered Something or Other, and I'm going to put the title here because I'm not going to pause and look it up. So this is a retitled edition published by Dale Books in 1978, I think. So I'm going to read that so I can get a little bit of Michael Moorcock into my reading TBR for the year, for the 2025. And then I will potentially read some more stories in Christmas Out West. And then my plan is that this should all line up with the final week and the holiday, actual Christmas days, where I'm going to read this book, Paper Doll by Jim Shepard. Now, I mentioned when I got the book that my grandfather served in World War II. He was a crew chief, and his plane was Paper Doll. Whether or not this is a fictionalized account of his plane, or if the author just randomly chose a name out of a bag and named his plane in this particular fictional account Paper Doll, I'm not sure. I haven't even read the first page of this book. But because my grandparents on my mother's side were such an important part of my childhood, especially around the holidays, I thought it'd be a nice way to sort of throw back to those early days when I was a kid, and we would go to Grandma and Grandpa's house at Christmas Eve and celebrate with them, and he would always regale us with great stories, many of which were from the war. And we would get sort of double the presents because we would get gifts from them and then an abundance of gifts the next morning from our parents. So anyway, just a fun way to celebrate the holiday by reading this World War II novel, Paper Doll. And that should wrap up my December. I have a weird feeling I'll probably be reading this into January. We'll see how it goes. But my that's my TBR. I think it's completely doable. I mean, I'm not like some of the guys here who post these, here's my 17 books that I'm planning on reading in the month of December. That will never happen on this channel. There's no way I could read that kind of volume, especially when I'm spending time writing, because I have a big writing deadline. This is rapidly racing towards me. So, but anyway, those are the books that I'm hoping to read. And it should be a lot of fun. It's a nice little mix of stuff. And we'll talk more about those as they peel away from the TBR in the coming days and weeks. I also have a tag that I saw. I wasn't tagged in it, but it seems like one I'd like to respond to. So that will be coming up shortly. And who knows, there'll be some other fun stuff coming. I've also had some people reach out to me asking me to talk about some of the other things that I've written. And there is a book that I co-authored called Cinema and Sorcery that I'd love to devote a short little episode to down the line as well, and tell you all about the origins of that book, how it was produced, some of the stuff that's in it that I'm especially proud of. And we'll see where that goes. But until then, thank you so much for watching this fun little aside, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Catch ya later.